It seemed, as if two friends were meeting after maybe, say, 15 months or 18 months. There have been some pinpricks in the relationship in the past, say, 15, 18 months. This anxiety that the relationship was going in the wrong direction, I think that is not the right way to read it. US President Donald Trump has reminded the world of his close relationship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In this G7 summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the senior most leader. It's not a reset of ties, or so to speak. He wants the ties to continue the way they were.
Hello and a very warm welcome to all. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aayesha Varma. On this special segment of Point Blank, we discuss a highly awaited for meeting between two titans of the world, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump, which has taken place on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Now, with us is HT's executive editor, Mr. Shishir Gupta, to bring us more. Sir, namaskar. So the bilateral that's just taking place, what do you make of it?
See, the bilateral between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump has actually taken off on a very positive note, because US President Donald Trump has reminded the world of his close relationship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There have been some pinpricks in the relationship in the past, say, 15, 18 months, but the way the conversation took place was showing absolute camaraderie between the two leaders. Second thing is that in this entire thing, it came out very clear that President Donald Trump wanted to have a very close relationship with India, which he said so specifically. Have a very close relationship with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which he said so specifically. And he wants to have close defense ties between India and the US. He was clear about the incident that took place in the off the Gulf of Oman, where the Indian seamen lost their life, 3 of them. And he was actually very upbeat about the bilateral ties, which is very important. So what you are actually looking is, it's not a reset of ties, or so to speak. It is basically that, he wants the ties to continue the way they were. In the sense that, he wants to have a trade deal. He's clear that, as long as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is there, he'll be there to help him out in case anybody, gets India. So his whole, the whole message was that US India are very close allies. That's what the fundamental message of this entire thing is. And it was, we were fearing that before this meeting, this could actually be turned into a management of a relationship between the two countries. No, this is a positive indicator. It has gone in a very positive direction. And it seemed, as if two friends were meeting after maybe, say, 15 months or 18 months. That's the way it is. But there were significant points in this, where one was that, India and US are going to complete the trade deal. Now, obviously, the trade deal has to be competitive, vis-a-vis, in which it's a win-win for both sides. That India and US will be sort of coordinating on energy, because US will be supplying oil and basically looking into energy requirements of India. It was also a place where, India and US defense ties will grow. It was also said specifically by President Donald Trump while answering a question, saying that, that he is looking forward to Indian professionals in the US. So all in all, if you see, it's a bilateral which has gone in a very positive direction, because President Donald Trump is not afraid of saying things. It could have gone anyway. He is very candid when he wants to say something, and he does not care whether he is offending the other person. But in this case, it was all my friend Modi, my friend Modi, and my friend Modi. So that's where it is. And he made it very clear that as long as this man is there, India, and as long as I am there in the White House, the relationship is going to be very close. Now, let me tell you something very important. In this G7 summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the senior most leader, in the sense that he is the man who has been there in the G7 summits I mean, he's senior to everybody as far as G7 summits go. He's also the leader who is democratically elected the third time. Is the longest continuous serving prime minister. So everybody understands what Prime Minister Modi brings to the table. And President Donald Trump recognizes it. The only thing that President Donald Trump recognizes is the people power that the man wields. That is why he reminded the world about his, Howdy Modi and Namaste Trump. Howdy Modi was in Houston and Namaste Trump was in Ahmedabad. And in both the places, the crowd was humongous. And that's why when he talks about the Ahmedabad, meeting where, he says about 150,000 people were there, it was a huge rally. And let me also tell you that when Prime Minister Modi had gone to Washington before this Howdy Modi, it was President Donald Trump who decided to come into that event. Once he heard that he was going over there. So he understands, he respects the kind of popular leader Prime Minister Modi is all about. And it's quite evident that the two want their ties to sort of, cement further. And, whatever issues are to be sorted out, like, the negotiations of the trade deal, because he makes it very clear that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a very tough negotiator. So, and he says so very clearly, tough negotiator, cool, calm person, killer, whatever he has said. So there is this, there are these issues, but these hurdles can be, overcome. And that is why what comes out of the meeting is basically, this anxiety that the relationship was going in the wrong direction. I think that is not the right way to read it. I think the relationship is headed towards a positive direction because both the leaders want the countries to come together each other.
Out of curiosity, there have been multiple pinpricks as far as this relationship between India and America are concerned. You just mentioned that Trump is not really afraid to say a lot of things. He has taken credit for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Tariffs have been a big issue between the two nations. Beyond this recently as well, the Indian seafarers who were killed. Do you think that India will be able to view America as a trustworthy ally, or do you think there will always be a certain amount of strain that remains between the two?
The tariffs were, basically the tariffs were slapped on everybody, half the world. It was not only India that was singled out for tariff. Please understand that. I mean, the three seamen, he said that, he was with their families this time. So I see no reason, if you want to make an issue out of something, that's another thing. But if you look at various things, for instance, tariff, the world had the tariff. And, and the war issue, Prime Minister Modi has made it very clear that that nobody had any role to play in this, at least with India, when it comes to stopping the Operation Sindoor. So I think it's over interpretation of things. I mean, one would like to say, there are a lot of problems happening. Okay. But if you look at the relationship, it's a huge relationship. It's a relationship which, it sort of expands into everything. And I see no reason. Had there been any other, pinpricks in that, or maybe some negative conversations in that, then one could have understood that, the relationship actually is not going in the right direction. But, I mean, this is how President Donald Trump is, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi stood his ground the way he does it. That's where it is. So I see no reason. I see the relationship going definitely in a positive direction. And I think these issues will be sorted out, particularly whether it is a trade deal or if there is any other issue, if there is some supply chain issue or if there is any other issue, that will be. And he has said that he's looking forward to coming to India. So if he'd be coming to India, he basically would be coming for the Quad Summit also. So that's where it is.
So as far as the trade deal is concerned, what do you think the key sticking points of it are at this point, and when do you think it's going to come about?
See, U.S. Trade Representative James Greer is coming to India, I think on June 22nd, and he'll be talking to various people. But the issue is that, the reciprocal tariff has been struck down by the Supreme Court of U.S. What we have now is a 12.5% tariff, which has been put as on basically what is called, getting inputs from forced labor, which is, attracting 301 of the US laws. Now, while we have got the 12.5 and other countries have also got, India's competitors, which sort of which compete with the same exports like Pakistan, like Indonesia, like Vietnam, like Bangladesh, they all have been given a 10% tariff. Now, what we want is the tariff should be competitive with India. As long as India gets better tariff rates, it's ready to do any deal. But the point is let them come forward as to what they want to do with it. So, as if we get a competitive rate, we're ready with the deal. But if the deal is not going to be, we'll continue to negotiate. It's not a breaking point kind of a thing, right? So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that it's not the end of the world, so to speak, because we will stick to our stand and we will try and negotiate. And that's what Prime Minister Modi is known for. He'll negotiate. He will keep on talking, and that's how he's going to do it.
So beyond what's taking place at the G7, also taking a look at Iran, the signing ceremony is slated for Friday. What is taking place there?
See, President Donald Trump made very clear that he expected a proper deal to be signed with Iran after they have secretly signed a memorandum of understanding. And but he also says that nothing is 100%. He makes it very clear that he has done many deals, and where there was a 1% chance, they signed it. Where there was a 100% chance, they did not sign it. So best is to wait till Friday, because Iran is given to a lot of surprises. Okay. And so if Iran sort of does not stick to the memorandum of understanding, then there could be some sort of a reaction from the US, because that's exactly what President Donald Trump has said, that he is going to retaliate if that is the case. But the way things look like, in all probability, the deal is going to be signed. Strait of Hormuz is going to get opened, and because the key factor over here is the nuclear dialogue, for which you have 60 days. Opening of Strait of Hormuz, basically freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz is something which is a global demand, which Iranians will accede to. Second thing is, if they do that, they will get a lot of benefits coming from US, sort of lifting of some sanctions, giving some money, so on and so forth. But till such time there is an agreement on nuclear thing, this whole thing will sort of there won't be any final answer to it. Okay. So this deal which is going to be signed on Friday is going to be an interim deal. The whether this entire topic heads towards a closure and brings peace to Middle East can only be decided after the nuclear question of Iran has been answered.
America has also been making some other moves in the backdrop by renaming the Pacific Command. Explain the significance of this.
See, it was President Donald Trump only who had sort of renamed the Pacific Command, which is based in Hawaii. It's been named as PACCOM since 1948. And he renamed it as Indo-Pacific Command, much to the chagrin of China, which wanted it to be called as Asia-Pacific Command, and in 2018. And now he's turned it back by saying that it's going to be called Pacific Command again. Now, we had an idea about the entire thing because Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth had actually made some, some indications toward this during the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore. Now, actually nothing changes seriously, because the geographical extremity of the Pacific Command or its jurisdiction in the eyes of the American remains the same. That is, Pakistan is the CENTCOM, western border of India is the PACCOM. So I seriously see nothing changing per se in that way. But we will get a clear-cut picture, because I am told that the Pacific Commander is going to be talking to our diplomatic channels tonight in Washington and conveying as to what does it really mean about it. But this has nothing to do with either Quad, or this has nothing to do with whether this is sort of some sort of relief to China, because seriously nothing changes in that. If I were to look at the other side, then I would say actually this also gives India some sort of a leeway in managing the Indian Ocean region. So while US handles the Pacific part of it, India handles the in-ocean region. So in that way, I look at it as positively. There's nothing negative about it.
So back to the bilateral. One of the big statements that was made by the US president was that America would protect India. What do you think that this means vis-a-vis recent attacks that we've seen in terms of terrorism?
Say, Aayesha, India does not need protection of the US vis-a-vis Pakistan or any other, adversary. It's basically a statement to say that, the two countries have close defense ties. That's what it is basically trying to communicate. It is basically trying to communicate that two countries are on the same page when it comes to national security issues. That's what it is trying to make. That's where one understands that. But also what he made a very significant statement was that India has a role everywhere in the world, which is a recognition of India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And he makes it very clear when he says, as long as this man is there, we will hold his hand, or we will protect him, or we'll do anything. So he's very clear as to what the relationship is and what is the personal relationship. So all in all, what you see is what has been communicated. Now, President Donald Trump sort of, is mercurial and can change statements, and he has done many a times. But let me be very clear. He has been most respectful of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has never uttered any wrong word per se, right? But this one cannot say when President Donald Trump talks about any other leader, including European leaders. So to say that, the relationship clearly is in a positive direction, both personally between the two leaders and when it comes to the two countries.
So thank you so much for joining us and bringing us all of that context in regards to this recent bilateral. With that, it's a wrap, but do stay tuned for more.